It all comes down to Sunday in the Premier League. After 37 matches per team, nearly 200 goals, 27 wins each. Manchester City against West Ham, Arsenal against Everton, and Man City are the ones who control their own destiny. We'll see what happens. Can David Moyes do Arsenal a favor on his last game with West Ham? Will Arsenal and Mikel Arteta and their amazing project continue to build? Will it come successful? Much to discuss with this amazing panel. I'm so blessed, everybody. ESPN FC live 3 times a week. Welcome, Luis Miguel Echegaray. You can call me LME for short. We have Yanis Michalik, Rob Dawson, and James Ollie. Before we get to these fine gentlemen's opinions and what to look ahead, let's have a listen and a watch to Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta and their press conferences against what will be a hopefully ridiculously entertaining Sunday. Listen to them right now.
We are in the last day of the season, playing for the Premier League. The Premier League trophy hasn't been yet at the Emirates Stadium, and that stadium was built almost 20 years ago. So that's a long time. So yes, we have to be very optimistic. The trophy is going to be there, and it's possible. And we have to do our duties, and then we have to wait and see what happens.
So they give us that certain moment, the destiny is in our hands. If you are waiting that they are going to drop to be champion, you are wrong. If you are thinking Arsenal is going to lose or drop points in Old Trafford, forget about it. Forget about it. If you are thinking that Everton tomorrow is going to do something, forget about it. They know it's win or win. Otherwise, Arsenal will be champion. It's not more complicated than that.
There they are, the master and his former student, the Catalan against the Basque. Unbelievable. Hopefully we'll get to see a very entertaining Sunday. Before we get the opinions of the great friend Yanis Michalik, let's just play the leveling field here. I want to see what's going on both sides. Let's begin. Rob Dawson, what did you get out of Pep Guardiola's press statement? Is he relaxed? Obviously, he's been here before looking for a 6th consecutive title in 7 years. A 6th title in 7 years, 4th consecutive, which is historic in English football. But what did you make of the presser, and how Man City looking ahead of this game against West Ham?
I think in terms of Pep's presser, it sounded very much like he was trying to get a message across to his players that this title isn't done. Now, I think a lot of City fans probably think it is done. Maybe a lot of Arsenal fans also think that it's a foregone conclusion. But City have been in this position before. Everyone will remember the game against QPR, where everyone expected City to walk it and lift the title. And obviously, they needed a last-minute goal from Sergio Aguero. A similar thing happened when it was Aston Villa a couple of years ago, went 2-0 up, and City had to come back and win 3-2 to win the title. Now, I don't think many people really are expecting that to happen against West Ham on Sunday, but Pep Guardiola referenced those 2 incidents unprompted in his press conference today. And that sounded to me very much like he wanted to remind his players that there's no point getting over a really big hurdle in this tight race against Spurs on Tuesday, only then to drop your level against West Ham at home on the final day of the season. It sounded very much like he was trying to remind his players that there's a game to win. No one's going to gift them the title. They need to beat West Ham. They need to do their job and make sure they finish it, because it would be a massive anticlimax for City to come all this way and fall at the final hurdle.
Yep, the continuous chase for perfection for Pep Guardiola. We'll have to wait and see how Kevin De Bruyne looks ahead of this one. James Ollie, let's go to the Arsenal camp. You've been here before expressing how, when Arteta does his pressers, he usually gives a no-nonsense, almost relaxed, sort of let's calm down and be realistic about what's to come. What did you make of Mikel Arteta's presser, and how are Arsenal looking as they face Everton and hoping for a slip at the Etihad?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to Rob in the sense of obviously with the big difference being that it's not in their hands. So I think what Mikel's trying to do today was just sort of set the right tone for Sunday, in that obviously the worst thing that could possibly happen is that City drop points and Arsenal don't capitalise. If there's, Arsenal absolutely have to win their game to really put any kind of pressure on City at all. And I don't think anybody in Arsenal red would forgive themselves if somehow City did slip up and Arsenal didn't win that game against Everton. So I think what he's trying to do today was sort of tell people to, keep the dream alive, really, to sort of say, look, the fact is that a Premier League trophy will be at the Emirates on the final day of the season for the first time. That's how far they've taken it. And I think that is reflective of a wider sort of satisfaction with how well they've done this year, even if they miss out. I mean, there's finishing second and there's finishing second. Last year they fell away. City really taught them a lesson at the Etihad near the end of the season, and they kind of ran out of steam and didn't really cope with the pressure of the run-in. Whereas this time they've kept winning. They've done everything they could have done, really. Since the turn of the year, they've been absolutely fantastic, and they've just come up against this winning machine that has been setting records for years under Guardiola. So look, I mean, they want to do everything they can right to the final day, and I think Arteta's just trying to keep everybody sort of on the straight and narrow at Arsenal and not give up. Not just turn up at the Emirates thinking, well, there's no point doing a job here today. I think he wants a resounding home win to then put as much pressure on City as they can.
Yeah, it's important to remember that most actually, realize that this Arsenal project is ahead of schedule, and to go to the final day of the Premier League season against the almost omnipotent Manchester City is remarkable. Yanis Mihalek, let me ask you this. Does anyone, do you think that Sunday ends indeed with anything other than Manchester City's 6th title in 7 years?
I almost feel like I have to say it's possible, right? Never say never, I suppose. So I'll get that out of the way just in case. But I've been with Manchester City. I'm going to stick with it because I just don't see any reason why West Ham would be capable of doing that. And I say that because one of the biggest things that I get out of Manchester City is that they're never complacent. And I'm sure that those that watch them closely will remember games. It doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5-0, the games against Wolves or maybe Fulham. It happened against Spurs as well. But, Spurs obviously were pushing, and if it wasn't for Ortega, who knows, we'd be talking about different stories here. But the lack of complacency, look at the way Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, it's 3-0, 4-0, and they're playing literally as if it was 0-0. I mean, it's incredible. The culture of never being satisfied is what's gotten Manchester City to where they are, right? I don't want to talk about the charges and all of that because whatever it is, Pep Guardiola and the players still have to do the job, and they do that so consistently over the years and in every game. And that's why, to me, that's. When I look at it and remember how I played and remember some of those games where I did think that at 2-0 or 3-0, maybe it's over, right? And you sometimes trying to rest within the game. I never, ever see that. I mean, we see those players coming off the pitch, absolutely, destroyed in terms of physicality, and it's an easy 4 or 5-0 win. So I just don't see it.
Yeah, not many people would. Rob Dawson, we were joking a little bit about this before taping, but there is some deep truth to it, I guess. West Ham saying goodbye to David Moyes. Is there any chance at all that West Ham could do something to make it a nervous day for City? What does David Moyes and West Ham have to do, if anything, or do you just think, forget it, thank you for showing up?
I don't see it. I don't see them really causing City many problems at all. They went 6 games without a win before beating Luton in their last game. They conceded 5 against Crystal Palace. They conceded 5 against Chelsea. City, on the other hand, have conceded once in the last 5 Premier League games. They've scored 17 goals. I mean, the way that they've handled this run-in has been emphatic, really. And I can't see anything other than quite a straightforward City win. The only way that this really goes wrong for City is if they give West Ham too many chances on the break, and teams that go to the Etihad do get chances. City like to push so high up; they want to flood the final third with as many players as possible, and it does leave gaps. And West Ham, on their day, have got a little bit of pace on the counter attack. They've got players like Bowen who are good goal scorers. So there is always that possibility that maybe City get caught once and go 1-0 down. The thing I would say is that even if that were to happen in the first sort of 10 or 20 minutes, you wouldn't back against City then scoring 4 or 5 themselves. And, again, to reference that Aston Villa game a couple of years ago, that's exactly what Villa did. They caught them on the break a couple of times. They went into a 2-0 lead, and City still had enough in a tank to go and score 3 goals relatively quickly. Yeah, and even by the end, it was quite straightforward. So, I mean, that's the problem that Arsenal face. That there is a possibility that West Ham may nick a goal, and everyone at the Emirates gets very excited. But City are just this formidable winning machine, and I just, I just can't see anything other than having far too much for West Ham and winning that title.
Yeah, a little bit of momentum going Man City's way as well. Erling Haaland returning from injury. He's been playing his best football this season so far. Rodri, of course, who I mentioned, James Ollie as my MVP. Obviously, there's an argument for many others, Declan Rice, etc., Ollie Watkins. But let me ask you this, James Ollie. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, Man City win this Premier League title, a fourth consecutive historic title, 6 in 7 years. What should Arsenal fans make of the Gunners ending second for a second consecutive season? What would you paint that picture for them if they indeed don't win the Premier League title?
Well, although positionally it doesn't look like it because they finished second again, it's undeniable progress because of the way they've finished second. You know, they've handled the pressure way better than they did last time. They've kept largely playing their football. They weren't great at Old Trafford last Sunday. They didn't have to be, but we saw them win a game in a slightly different way. You know, they took the lead through a nice piece of play after Casemiro gave them the freedom of Manchester to go and play their football. But they took advantage of that moment, and then they just sat off them really, and they were able, because of how good they are defensively. You know, they can win games like that, and they weren't really able to do that. Probably not even last season. And I think if you think about the draw that they had at the Etihad, and I've seen a lot of people sort of say, oh, they missed an opportunity there for, you know, why didn't they go for it when City were a bit depleted and they could have tried to win the game and they could have, you know, taken advantage of the title race there and then. But people forget what their record was like at the Etihad. They would go there and they would get battered every single year. And so to go there and be fairly comfortable and to get a 0-0 draw was, and you know, although obviously we don't know the final numbers yet, it is distinctly possible that Arsenal will end up with the best defensive records. They might score the most goals, although I know City have obviously moved ahead them in that now. You know, they're top of pretty much every sort of individual chart except the points tally at the end of it. And that is more a reflection of just how relentless and how proven City are over course and distance in a way that Arsenal haven't been. But I think there was a sense of regret last season with how it played out near the end. And as I say, because of how much they ran out of steam, but there won't be any regret this time. I think the atmosphere will be very positive if they don't do it on Sunday. I think there'll be a sense of a celebration of how well they've progressed. The signings that they've made have integrated well into the team. They've got Yuri and Timber to come in, who will be the cliched, you know, like a new signing for next season, and he is supposed to be a key part of what Arteta's trying to do with that team. So the sort of the evolution next is kind of there, you know, with Timber, let alone what they'll hopefully do in the market in the summer, and they're planning to try and be proactive and aggressive once again if they can. So there is a momentum about them, even if they don't win it, that I think will keep the mood positive if the worst happens and City win the league.
Right now, 27 wins for Arsenal. That's more than the Invincible season, by the way, and that's the most ever in the Premier League. And that's more goals already than last season, and they've almost halved the goals they conceded from last season. So progress indeed. Yanis Michalik, let's bring a little caveat here. If Man City do win, it is, you know, on the shadows of the cusp of the 115 charges, which the club obviously deny. We're still waiting for that. But if City do win, is their dominance as bad for the Premier League as PL fans make it out to be in France or Germany? What do you think?
I don't think it's even close. I mean, I didn't look at all the statistics, but, you know, I mean, if you look at Germany and Bayern Munich, right, for the most part, when they had their run, 10, 11, you know, they won the title in January or February, right? If it was in March, it was very, very late. If you look at Juventus and their years as well, I mean, they were absolutely dominant, right? If you look at PSG, for the most part, when was the season over for them as well? And when you look at the Premier League, and, you know, there's been some seasons like the COVID one where Liverpool got it. It's been the difference. I mean, it's not all that much. I mean, they've been pushed last season by Arsenal, a couple of times by Liverpool as well. Right. The biggest one, I think, was maybe, and you guys can correct me, was when Manchester United came in second. That was big. So really, they are being pushed, and the margins are very, very small on a couple of occasions. So I don't necessarily think that it's a dominance comparable to the one of Bayern Munich, PSG, or Juventus, in my opinion. Not even close.
All right. Well, it's a massive championship day for both teams. The destinies in control of Manchester City. Let's get to predictions, everybody. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be boring ones because I think I know where everybody's going. Yanis, very quick. What do you see here?
Just 2 wins, one for Arsenal, one for Manchester City.
And City win their title. Rob Dawson.
Same again. 2 home wins. City win the title.
And James Ollie.
Say something different, James.
Go on.
Maybe you'll be the lucky one.
I think that one of Everton or West Ham will score first. I mean, I don't even think that. I genuinely don't even think that. But let's put it out for the sake of variety. Let's say one of those two are going to score first, create a scare, and then the 2 expected teams will win.
Well, there you have it. Well, I have mine. Ready? This is a shot. No, Man City's winning this. Come on, now. It's ridiculous. All right. So make sure to follow ESPN FC Live because we'll be here as well right after the games. And by the way, Rob Dawson covering the Man City game at the Etihad against West Ham. James Ollie at the Emirates Stadium against Everton. And let's move on now to Liverpool, who Jurgen Klopp had his final press conference as Liverpool manager ahead of their final game. Of course, we have known for a while already that he is to leave and Arne Slot ready to take over. But let's have a listen, let's have a watch at what the German manager had to say in his final press.
For me, it's absolutely. I'm absolutely fine. I know we could have won more, but I cannot change that anymore. So I'm absolutely fine. We could have won less. It's possible as well. Not becoming champion for a point, it's not a great experience, but it's an experience and shows you that you are really good. That will not be in the history books. Obviously, it's not. And then all the wins and then the nearly wins, they will not be there. I know that. That's life. But you cannot. If you are in it, you cannot see it like that. I can't. And I couldn't have done anything different. I said before, I would not be happy if I would have thought I could have done more. I couldn't have done more. Could have done better. Me, not. Could somebody else done better? Yeah, probably. That's possible. But me in that situation, no. And that's why I'm fine with it. And the rest will be judged by the people. And I'm pretty sure more of them are fine with what we did, and some think it's not enough, and both is absolutely all right if they think like that.
In his incredible stretch with Liverpool as manager, 7 major trophies, 1 Premier League title, 2 times runners-up to Manchester City, 1 Champions League title, 2 runners-up to Real Madrid, Club World Cup, Super Cup, of course, the FA Cup, and 2 Carabao Cups. But it's also, Yanis, about what he meant to Liverpool fans and what he meant to the community. Where would you put Jurgen Klopp in terms of his reputation, who he is, and what he's given to Liverpool? How would Liverpool fans remember Jurgen Klopp when he says goodbye?
Well, I think you just answer. I mean, all you have to do is ask the fans. That's the most important thing. We can say whatever we want, and we change our minds very often from game to game, right? Mikel Arteta is a great example, at least for me, a couple of years back, where I thought he wasn't good enough. There you have it. But look, I mean, every club in the world is looking for a manager like Jurgen Klopp that gives you stability, that gives you a good way of playing, and a possibility of winning trophies. And he's done more than that in 9 years. I mean, you kidding me? Here's a manager at one of the biggest clubs in the world that at no point he was in danger of being sacked. I don't even know if there was a discussion. Certainly not amongst the fans and us as well, right? So you look what he's accomplished, just the fact that he finally won that Premier League. And we're talking about Jurgen Klopp in an era of Manchester City, which we were just talking about. The margins are so small. Liverpool have felt it. 98-7 season. Mikel Arteta and Arsenal may feel it right now, where they think to themselves, we've done more than we could possibly do, and we still haven't won it. So when I look at Jurgen Klopp, and this season in particular, where I didn't think that was going to be as successful, and I think it was very successful, with all that rebuild, where in the back of his mind, he already knew that he wanted to do it. He spoke to his owners, I think it was in November already about that, and yet had the drive to not only rebuild that midfield, but Liverpool were in the title run till a couple of weeks ago. So I think he's an absolute legend. Could he have won more? Absolutely. Has he won enough? Just ask the Liverpool fans.
Yeah, and let's have a look at this last season. Of course, a Carabao Cup. They'll confirm third place, of course, over 80 points if they get a draw or that victory on Sunday. Rob Dawson, did they overachieve, underachieve this final season? What do you think?
I mean, I think in terms of where they were in February, maybe they'll feel it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, given that they were right in the title race. They'd won the Carabao Cup. They were still in the FA Cup and looked on course for the Europa League. So in terms of where they were in February, maybe it's a little bit of an anticlimax. But all I would say is that when you go back to the start of the season, I'm not sure that many people had them down as realistic title contenders. You know, lots of talk before the season was about City again and about Arsenal. No one really was mentioning Liverpool in the same breath because of the rebuild that they had to do, particularly with the work that they had to do in midfield. So, you know, the fact that Jurgen Klopp got them into that position sort of come February time should be applauded. I imagine that he's probably looking at that position that they were in around that time and thinking, you know, maybe we should have won a bit more. They've run into a City team again, like they have so many seasons, that are just formidable winners. So I don't think there's any shame in finishing third behind City and Arsenal in the Premier League. Perhaps the one that he may have a little bit of regret about is the Europa League. You know, there was that little week where they had a wobble and then they lost that first leg quite heavily to Atalanta in the Europa League and you know, couldn't salvage it in the second leg. You know, maybe he's looking at that and thinking if they perform better in that first leg against Atalanta, they would be looking forward to Europa League final and a big send-off for him in a major European final. But in terms of what they've achieved, what he's achieved throughout his career at Liverpool and what they've achieved this season, as Yanis said, I think he's won enough. You know, it's an incredible record. He's won everything there is to win. I think if you'd offered him that when he first took over at Liverpool, with the state that club were in, I think he would have bitten your hand off.
James, I'm very curious here because we have obviously talked highly of Jurgen Klopp, and rightly so, the influence that he has given Liverpool Football Club. What's next for Liverpool, do you think? I know it's a tough one because not even Arne Slot has even entered the building, but you know he is obviously on his way there. But there's a lot of changes. Of course, Mohamed Salah's not getting any younger, and there's a lot of tactical, philosophical changes for Liverpool. Where do you see Liverpool now? Because when Sir Alex Ferguson left, and yes, I am mentioning Sir Alex because I do believe that Liverpool fans and the relationship that he built with Jurgen Klopp is that strong. But where do you see Liverpool now, post Jurgen Klopp, looking into a different blank canvas of a future?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he is, as the guys have said, he's more than a manager. He's a cultural icon in Liverpool, and you know, the reason why I don't think there's any kind of debate in Liverpool about whether he's won enough or whether his record was good enough in finals and that kind of thing is because of the way he's made them feel for 9 years. And you can't, you know, we can look at the history books and we can look at the stats and we can pore over, you know, every number related to their performance, but you can't quantify that feeling. And that, in a way, is going to be Arne Slot's biggest challenge, is that he's got to try and find a way to build his own connection with the supporters and really understand that city and what the club means to the area. To me, a lot of it comes down to what they're going to do with Salah, because you know he's 31, I think now. He's got a year left on his contract, and the expectation is that there'll be Saudi money coming back for him. They obviously turned down a huge bid for him in the past. If that Saudi money materialises, Liverpool have a massive decision to make, in my opinion. You know, do you say, right, we're going to risk losing him for nothing in a year, keep our best player, our absolute talisman, and not want to lose a key player like that in the same summer as Jurgen Klopp leaving? Or do you say to Arne Slot, okay, we're going to take the money here, we're going to take, let's say, 150 million, huge amount of money for one player with 1 year left on his deal, but we're going to give every penny of that to you, and you can then go and spend it how you want to mould this team in your own image. And there must be an appeal to that for Liverpool, because you are kind of, you know, they've had the end of an era forced upon them by Klopp's decision to leave. But you really start to take that and own that in a different way if you decide to sell the key player that you've had during that period in Mohamed Salah. And I'm not suggesting that Salah, I mean, it will be a huge loss if they did decide to cash in on him. And obviously, someone else is going to have to step up. But they are well stocked in those kind of attacking areas. It's not as if they'd be scratching around for options there. That's not to say that Liverpool are better off without him. But what I'm saying is that I think that if that materialises, there is a strong case to say for Arne Slot, here's the money, take it, go and build your own team, rather than, and this is the problem that David Moyes had when he took over from Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, is that you sort of feel like you're kind of just caretaker, really. You're just trying to keep the Fergie image going. You're trying to keep that, that mentality and that structure, and really you're just a kind of caretaker, temporary, transient person who's just trying to pass it on to the next guy in a few years. I think what Arne Slot wants to do is really come in and stamp his own authority on it. And were they to sell Salah and then spend that money in that way and be aggressive and be proactive with it, it would accelerate that opportunity to rebuild the team in his own image. And as much as they don't want to, they have to move on from Jurgen Klopp. And that would be a way to fast track that right at the start of his tenure.
A very interesting summer ahead for Liverpool, and a very interesting weekend ahead in the Premier League, of course. James, Ollie, Rob, Dawson, thank you so much. Make sure to read their coverage on ESPN FC as they both cover the title-chasing final day in the Premier League. Thank you so much, boys. We will see you next time. Till then, all right, Yanis Mihalek, it's just you and I. Let's go over to España, La Liga, because, well, I mean, a quiet day at Barcelona is kind of like a boring day at Barcelona, Yanis Mihalek. Reacting to our sources here at ESPN FC that Barcelona, / Joan Laporta, considering Xavi's future due to some of the words that he mentioned about Barcelona's financial difficulties after the Almeria game. Per the club, obviously, everything is as is, but according to sources, it's not completely confirmed that Xavi will be the manager next season. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, big ego from Laporta. I mean, that's obviously one thing. I'm not absolutely convinced that this is the reason for that. Not that it's a conspiracy theory, but I don't think Xavi said anything that people don't know. I think indirectly, even the president has said that. So for him to turn around tells me that this may be just an excuse, wherever it's coming from, the president or from Deco or from anybody else, to maybe make that happen. Or it could also possibly be that things were never that rosy, right, at Barcelona. There was that spell, of course, where Xavi, after announcing that he's leaving, Barcelona all of a sudden started playing a little bit better. And when I say better, I'm talking about the Champions League. And had they gotten through PSG, I promise you that we're not having this conversation. Certainly not because of a couple of words that he's mentioned that were absolutely obvious and true. So I think there's more at play. If it does happen, we're going to find out. The one thing I will say that Xavi, I mean, if I were Xavi and this is true, I'd be already resigning, right? You have to almost respect Thomas Tuchel just a little bit, right? Because he could have easily, I mean, it's a very similar situation, right? When things weren't right, they were trying to push them out. And when things got better, all of a sudden, people said, you know what, maybe they're just as good, right? And then you turn around and you say to yourself, you know what? We are mighty Bayern Munich. We are mighty Barcelona. And we're used to getting everything that we want. And, I don't want to take this away from Barcelona, but in terms of Bayern Munich, they're finding out it's not all that easy to get the top managers in the world. With Barcelona, I suspect there's going to be that pull. But that pool of managers are going to be closely looking at this situation, if true, and say, wait a second here. This is nothing that Xavi has done in terms of these words. And if that's what I'm going to get into with a club that can't buy the players that I want, should I be going there at this moment?
Yeah, he, like you said, he hasn't said anything that isn't true. Barcelona,
has to be more to it, LME. Has to be. This almost seems like an excuse if the reporting is true.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. We'll have to wait and see. Final matches for Barcelona, 2 of them left if they hold on to that second place. But Barca will end the season without a trophy. We'll have to wait and see how this final 2 matches in La Liga end for the Catalan club. All right, very quickly here, Yanis Mihalek. Only recently, Juventus, Serie A's Juventus, Max Allegri is out. He is done. It's official. Reports Thiago Motta, who did wonderfully with Bologna to get them to the Champions League. Of course, reportedly, he's the one in the front seat. But Allegri is out. What do you make of this move and Juventus going forward?
No surprises. I mean, you got to give him his due. That's for sure. We saw it coming. I, like maybe some others, I've never been a fan of the way that he manages his teams, but he's been successful everywhere he's gone. I mean, if you look at Juventus, that decade of winning, he's responsible for what? Half of that, just about, right? And even delivering, in a season that as disappointing as this one has been in the eyes of Juventus fans. I mean, just winning Coppa Italia, that's big as well. He had that surprise win with Milan. It wasn't a great way. Nobody expected it, but yet he delivered as well. So in terms of his legacy, I don't think he needs to worry about that. But I think Juventus, I mean, let's face it, when you're winning for a decade and then you have a couple lean years, it's not unusual to go through a period like this. We've seen it with Manchester United. We've seen it with Arsenal. We'll see it with Manchester City. I'm pretty sure of that when Pep Guardiola leaves. So players, so I think the fans were disappointed because, yes, he was very, very pragmatic. And I think still underachieved with the squad of players that he had. And I just think that Juventus fans around the world just felt that he could have squeezed a lot more out of this team, and for whatever reason he didn't. And I think that's just down to his philosophy. That when it worked, fans always take it, right? When you win Scudetto just about every year.
And of course, Juventus fans were used to that for a very long time until most recently Inter Milan winning. They're fourth right now, 2 matches left, but Atalanta, Roma, they're hoping for some kind of slip. But as you mentioned, they won Coppa Italia, which is the first trophy in a few years. But that's it.
The big one, we have to add, as always, Bayer Leverkusen. That's my last thought, because, what's it, Augsburg, undefeated, at least in the Bundesliga. That's never been done. And then, who knows in the Pokal and in Europa.
An unbelievable campaign for Xabi Alonso. He should just retire after this, I think, Yanis Michalik. If he comes every single tournament, including the season, undefeated, that's unbelievable, as you mentioned, rightly so. And I'm glad you told me that, because guess what, everybody? That's an ESPN Plus match that you can watch coming up on ESPN Plus this weekend. We start in England, the Championship, Southampton, West Bromwich Albion. We start tonight, actually, with the EFL Championship playoff action as Southampton and West Brom face off to decide who will face Leeds United at Wembley for a place, the final place in the Premier League, as Leicester City and Ipswich Town are moving up. We'll find out the third one. Coverage begins 2:30 Eastern. Kickoff is at 3. And then on Saturday, as Yanis was saying, the Bundesliga, the final day. The season wraps up with every team kicking off at 9:30 Eastern. Can the champions, Bayer Leverkusen, go an entire Bundesliga season unbeaten? Unbelievable. Find out when they face, as Yanis was preluding to, FC Augsburg. And finally, we go to España, La Liga. We talked about Barcelona. They face Rayo Vallecano. I love Rayo. They have the same colors as the Peruvian national team shirt. But anyway, on Sunday, that's what's happening. It's the end of the season in La Liga. Barcelona against Rayo Vallecano and Villarreal against the champions Real Madrid. And that's kicking off at 1 p.m. Eastern. All of it on ESPN Plus, of course. And don't forget, everybody, that you can watch Yanis, yours truly, on ESPN Plus, ESPN FC, ESPN FC Live, YouTube right here. We'll be right back on Sunday. I will be here. I'm not sure about Yanis. Are you going to be here on Sunday for the final day of the Premier League?
Yes, I will be. I think right after the game. There's something going on right after the game. I'm pretty sure I'm on.
There's something going on, and hopefully we will all see you there. ESPN FC Live. It's been a pleasure. Make sure to enjoy all the matches this weekend. Have a fantastic start to your weekend, of course, and we will see you next time. Till then, bye-bye.